Join us for the driving review of the all-new BMW X7. This is the biggest BMW double kidney ever presented. We say Doppelniere, by the way, in German. That's the direct translation. However, those headlamps here, they are quite slim to that. What do you think about this front design? I think it works because it differentiates the X7 to the X5, so you can see, oh, this is the bigger version. Of course, you can argue if it's maybe too big. The length is at 5 meters 15, 16 foot 9 or 203 inches. Wheelbase 3 meters 10. So if you compare it to the BMW X5, this one here, oh, it welcomes me when I have the key in my pocket. This one here, 23 centimeters longer than the BMW X5, and 13 centimeters of that goes into the wheelbase. So indeed, they have a different wheelbase to offer more room also on the interior. We'll soon come to that. The wheels come with 20-inch standard. Those ones are the optional 22-inch. This is one of the rare cars where I don't have to go down with the rear profile. I can just stand upright. And to me, I really like the design in front and in side profile, but in the rear I see one problem, especially, from this camera angle, you can see how this top part of the vehicle is somehow more narrow than the lower part. And that's, somehow creating a strange visual effect. I think it should be a little bit wider here in this upper area. Or what do you think? Then the tail lamps are also drawn very wide. There's a transition here with the chrome element right there. This one is the 50i here today, the V8. And also another color for you, this is Arctic Grey. It has a blue nuance depending on how the light situation is. And here under the hood there's also the inline 6-cylinder petrol engine. We will also test it out later and compare it to the V8. Wow, look at that beautiful engine work. This is really something still for car enthusiasts. This is the 4.4-liter V8, 462 horsepower in the so-called 50i. 5.4 seconds is the acceleration figure to 100 kilometers an hour or 62 miles an hour. This one here predominantly for the US. The most V8s will be sold here. In Europe, we can only get the 3-liter inline 6-cylinder petrol with 340 horsepower. But that one still has, just an acceleration of 6.1 seconds. It's the 40i then. And then there are also the diesels, 3-liter 6-cylinder diesel, either 30D with 265 horsepower, 7 seconds acceleration figure to 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour, or then the M50D. So the M50D, less horsepower, just 400, so less horsepower than this V8 petrol here, but still the same acceleration figure because it's so good in the Newton meters of torque. So I would actually go with this vehicle, with the diesel, because it is rather calm driving and the diesels offer better fuel consumption. And also that you have a visual here on the inline 6-cylinder. This interior, it has different trim styling. This one here is dark blue together with bright. I just love the color combination, so the dashboard is dark. It doesn't have, glaring or effect. In the lower part, however, you have this bright effect then, and I just love having the dark blue in contrast, not to just having black. This adds, wow. It's such a wow interior. The only thing is that in those high trims, they use a lot of animal skin material. Seating position here in the front, it's just a dream. Really so comfortable. You sit totally upright, have a good view to the front, and really just relaxed feeling. The seat form is really great. All electric seat control right there. You can also put the front part of the seat a little bit longer if you have long legs. Interior overview. You can see the Bowers & Wilkins sound system has its own visual on the top part there. Then 2x 12.3 inch, all digital instruments, and gladly they just went for this size. I really hate it when cars offer 3 or 4 different infotainment system size. This is just one, that's it. Of course, for that price we can also expect that. But again, both in 12.3 inch. Then you see something like a front grille design also here in the middle part.
And here we can see the head-up display you can get. It has a clear view, the allowed speed, the current speed, and you also get some GPS info.
Those digital instruments to save some space. You can see here on the right side and on the left side. Well, left side is the speed, right side is RPM. Now to the infotainment system right here. The visualization is quite cool, however the menu structure sometimes drives me nuts. It's so complicated. The Apple CarPlay, if you have connected it, it is wireless CarPlay by the way. Android Auto not available, and you cannot use it with a cable. So wireless, to have it is definitely quite nice. So this one would be the standard rear view right here, good resolution, and the drone from above. You can also click here then, for example, or here to change the views. This is here a sliding cover. Then there's the inductive charging platform. Let's open the rear doors. Here it gets really interesting. Nice finish also at the rear doors, all soft materials. Then there's an electric shade, for example, for the rear windows, which already have a darker tone. And wow, this is then really something to discover. This one is the 2-2-2 setup, so 6-seater with the captain's chairs. This is an option. Usually it would be a rear bench with 7 seats overall then. Now I move to the other chair, and it's really cool to have, some more flexibility around you. Yes, it is more comfortable with those individual captain's chair because, if you're seeking to go on long journeys with your family, but then not with so much luggage, then it would be the ideal solution. Or again, if you're more using it for business chauffeur purposes. And here we go. And well, as for the headroom, put up those head restraints. I have a separate panoramic roof right here. I can also open and close it with a button. I have another climate unit here too, even with seat heating for those rear seats. Maybe here you can also see me a little bit better. So if I had proper knee room right there in the third seating row, I would be dwarfed in here on the captain's chair. So that's again my point. This car has a very bad package overall. There we go. This one would be the setup when the seats are up, the last seating row. Also the dark blue suede cover here for the last part should be adjusting for the luggage setup. That means both of those flip right there. And also the captain's seat, you see they fold a little bit forward first. And now it gets really exciting because here, this one here is the 7-seater with the bench that goes all the way through. It's the same style as for the trim, but you can see here now 3 seats in the rear and a bench that goes all the way through. Very interesting. Now we're talking. There it is. This is legroom. How I would expect it from a car of this length. So, well, the captain's chair, they are somehow more exclusive in, moving around. However, the bench here is also very comfortable. And now, what about the trunk here of the 7-seater with the bench that goes all the way through? So, I'll remove this top cover here directly that we have the maximum setup right soon, that you can see it. And then flips forward. You can also flip it forward from the passenger compartment, and now we're talking here as well. So up to my front seat when I would be driving, that is then 2 meters. So at the moment there's no one behind us. There are different driving modes available, as we know from BMW. So when we go to the sport mode, for example, the gears are turned up higher. You have a little bit more punch then. The throttle input is also increased as for that. So let me just decelerate just a little bit, and then we can just hammer the throttle right there. This is already 60 miles. Wow. Yeah, I mean, the official figure is just 5.4 seconds to 60 miles or 60 miles an hour, 100 kilometers an hour, and I think we could easily reach that. And now we deliver you a scenic ride. Look at that perspective here in Big Bend National Park. Really great scenic view. And actually, I turned the car around for you. So I'm also testing the turning circle now. Here the camera view. Here your camera, I can just drive to the pavement right there. And this rear axis steering now also helps to reduce the turning circle. Again, 3.5 degrees. Opposite direction in the front wheels. That makes it more agile. I can also feel it when driving slower here now. The car then feels smaller than it actually is. And
turn right at the end of the road onto Ross.
Really interesting, that a big car can feel so small, so to say. The air suspension is a little bit softer than in the X5. We also feel it when you drive a little bit more agile than here, so the car it doesn't really shake more because it also has this anti-tilting function, so that reduces then the roll, but you somehow feel that the suspension is softer. And again, I can just say this is, to me, more likable than the X5, but it's also a matter of preference. If you like more sporty SUV driving, then the setup in the X5 is more something for you. And now to driving the 6-cylinder petrol engine. As for suspension and everything, it's of course all totally the same. I can just say again that the setup of the air suspension is really to my liking, and no matter if you go motorway or also countryside road, it's really very well to ride and gives just a very good natural driving feeling. And it's really astonishing how BMW could transport their core brand values also to a big SUV. And indeed also the steering feeling is better than with the all-new BMW 3 Series. And then this engine here, the acceleration difference was just 0.7 seconds, so there's not so much performance lost whatsoever. But consumption, this one is a big difference. So this one here you can drive with about 11 liters on 1 kilometers, or that's about 21 mpg US or 25 mpg UK. And that will at the end of the day be more than 3 liters difference on 1 kilometers between this one here, the 6-cylinder, and the 8-cylinder. So there's really a lot of consumption cost you get extra than with the V8. And as long as you're just rolling, you don't feel too much of a difference. Sound-wise, yeah, that's the biggest difference, because this one here you hardly hear. You also heard the comparison there when you're standing outside. That one is then, even better to notice. What an awesome landscape here, right again around Big Bend. Then we go to the sport mode. Also interesting that we have the different color here displayed right there. There's no one behind us. And let me just hammer it here with the acceleration, just as it is with the V8, and see how that 6-cylinder plays out. That was 55 miles already. Had to go slower and immediately. Wow, that was again pretty cool. Again, from the all-wheel drive, it delivers a very good smooth acceleration. And now to our conclusion for today with the all-new BMW X7 and this marvelous landscape here. So I think, well, I really enjoyed it here. I hope you really enjoyed this combination here also with the car and the landscape. Well, as for the exterior, it's of course really, really strong. That's also what some of the markets were demanding. And this huge front grille, I mean, you immediately realize it's an X7. You can surely argue if it's maybe a little bit too much. That's up to personal preference. The interior is very well built, so it's an excellent build quality, and it's really pure luxury, especially in the captain's seat setup. However, the better setup, to my taste, would be definitely the 7-seater, not the 6-seater. So the 7-seater, where we can definitely flip down the whole bench, that you can, for example, also just fit a bicycle in there. So I would go for that one to be a little bit more flexible. And what's of course missing, they offer it sometimes then in the entry versions with the sensor tech, but in the high trim versions, BMW also needs to offer more sustainable alternatives for the seating. That's where they have been working on, yes, but they're a little bit lagging behind there at the moment. Other than that, you have a lot of space, of course, on the interior. You could theoretically have a little bit more when the seats weren't that, thick and voluminous, so it's not a good package. But since the car overall is that large, of course, you'll have plenty of space overall. The driving, it's great in driving. The air suspension has a really incredible setup. Also, with the rear axis steering, it is more agile to drive than you would expect from the interior. So again, BMW proved that they have really good driving performance also when it's a big and luxurious SUV. I think it's also a better setup than the BMW X5, which was to my taste a little bit too sporty from the air suspension if you expect this air suspension carpet ride. So I think a very good setup they found right here. Well, and overall, it's of course a very expensive vehicle. It surely has its market. With the V8, it's not really necessary. The consumption is very high. The smaller engines will also be just fine for the US. For example, with the inline 6-cylinder petrol engine, you have less consumption, but only some less performance. The big difference is the sound from the exterior. That one is significantly better with the V8.